Hi everyone, I'm Becky and I'm watching from Sydney.
And I'm watching from Cape Town, South Africa.
And I'm watching from London.
From Sweden.
I'm watching from Thessaloniki, Greece. My work is to receive calls related to human trafficking. When I first heard about human trafficking, I wanted to help, but the numbers and the statistics were overwhelming for me. Until I understood that the fight is for the one that needs to be rescued.
I'm Adrian and I'm watching from Mexico City.
Hi, my name is Maggie and I'm watching from Bulgaria.
I will be watching the Global Freedom Summit from Paris.
To Kharkova.
I'm Sinan and I am watching from Oslo, Norway. I am a volunteer at our office and I work with everything communication to bring awareness and to mobilize people to take action.
I get to be a part of the 18-year-old team here in South Africa, and what I do is I help male survivors and a lot of the admin work.
And I'm watching here from London, and I actually am based here in London at our UK office, supporting our teams globally with any victim identification activities, including our 3 hotlines.
Hi, my name is Kinga and I'm watching from Warsaw, Poland. I believe change is possible because if we stand together, we can end slavery.
Hello, I'm watching the Global Freedom Summit from Cambodia.
I'm watching from Bangkok.
I'm Danelle and I'm watching from my honeymoon.
I'm watching from Strand in South Africa. Whoop whoop Strand!
Hi everyone, my name is Elisa and I'm tuning in from Madrid in Spain. And I get the privilege of working with an amazing team here in Spain to raise awareness about human trafficking. We go out, do presentations, develop programs that help people connect with the issue of human trafficking in a relevant way, in a way that they can understand it.
I believe that change is possible because we're making it happen right now. By showing up and playing your part, whatever it might be, our collective effort will make a difference in the fight for freedom. So I encourage you to use your gifts and talents to be a part of the solution to end slavery everywhere forever.
Hi, my name is Alyssa and I'm watching from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Hi, I'm Dan and I'll be watching from India.
Cette année, je participerai au Global Freedom Summit depuis Paris.
Mă numesc Anca și urmăresc evenimentul din Cluj, România.
I'm Matt and watching from Cambodia.
My name is Celia and I'm watching from Oslo.
Hi, my name is Luca and I'm watching from Cuvinte, South Africa.
Hola, soy Zach y estoy mirando desde España y soy voluntario aquí.
Hi, I'm Shan and I'm watching from Cape Town, South Africa. I work as a call specialist on our hotline here in South Africa.
I believe change is possible when governments and non-profits work in collaboration, and every single one of us being responsible citizens step up and do what we can do to eradicate this evil from our planet.
Hola, mi nombre es Cesar y estoy viendo desde San Antonio, Texas.
Hi, my name is Miyoung and I'm watching from Honolulu, Hawaii.
I'm watching from Switzerland.
I'm watching the Global Freedom Summit from Uberlândia, Minas Gerais, Brazil.
I am Greta and I am watching from Sydney.
And I'll be watching from Thailand.
Hi, my name is Mikey and I'll be watching from London, England.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Bender, and I believe that change is possible because I've seen it. In over a decade doing this work, I've seen it not only in my own personal life as a survivor of human trafficking, but in the hundreds of lives of women that we've served across the country. And I've seen change take place in communities and states by those of us digging in, learning about how to fight policy and demand, outreach, intervention, restoration, to engage in this fight. That's why you're here at the Global Freedom Summit, is to learn more and to learn how to change and engage a culture. Thank you.
You've already started. You're already a part of the community. You're already a part of the fight against human trafficking simply by watching and simply by joining us. Now it's just time to take the next step. And so I would encourage everyone, wherever you are, do your research and figure out where are your local organizations? Who in your community is fighting human trafficking? Who in your community is committed to ending human trafficking, and join them? Whether that's through giving, whether that's through training, or just letting people know what this issue really is. But I would encourage everyone to understand that you can be a part of the solution. As a survivor, on behalf of those who have survived this, and on behalf of those who are still journeying to survive this, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for investing in us.
everyone, and welcome to the Global Freedom Summit. My name's Charlie.
And I'm Rocky.
And we're so excited that you've decided to join us for this monumental day. We're so grateful to have started today in hearing directly from survivors. The bravery of human trafficking survivors is remarkable, and it's inspiring as we all work together to end this global crisis.
During these 24 hours, tens of thousands from cities, countries all over the world will be tuning in and taking local action in the fight against modern-day slavery.
That's right, we genuinely believe that through the collective action of people like you and I, we can and we will see slavery come to an end. So during this broadcast, we're going to be unpacking human trafficking as a global crisis. We're going to be sharing some insights on what is needed to end this injustice, and we hope to equip you with the necessary tools to identify trafficking within your own community. You know, you joining us today is the first step. Whether you're watching at home or in a public place, maybe with a large group of people or just a few friends, we're going to be sharing with you practical action steps that you can take that will bring real and lasting change.
So to kick things off, I have the honor of introducing A21 CEO, Nick Kane. Nick will be sharing with us the vision for the Global Freedom Summit and what you can expect from today. So I encourage you to lean in, take notes, and get ready to take action. Now is the time to do whatever we can to bring freedom to more lives in cities, towns, and communities all around the world. Check out this special message from Nick now.
Hey everybody, I'm Nick Kane, the CEO of A21. Thank you so much for joining us for our first ever Global Freedom Summit. We are so excited that all of you have decided to join us in fighting one of the largest, most heinous and fastest growing crimes in the world. For the past 6 years, we've rallied tens of thousands of people all over the world to walk for freedom. While our strategy this year looks different, our mission is still the same: to abolish slavery everywhere, forever. This global broadcast has been designed to prepare you for a day of action. At A21, we've always believed in the value of individual action, but even more so, what's possible when we all come together. What we do today will set a precedent not just for the world that we live in today, but for the world our children and the generations to come will experience. A world where human beings are not for sale, a world where every single person is free. At the end of our broadcast, we're going to share some practical steps so that you can take meaningful action today in the fight against human trafficking. Are you ready to change the world? Let's get started.
Everyone is born with the right to be free, but not everyone gets that opportunity. Modern-day slavery is a global crisis impacting more than 40 million people in our world today. That's 1 out of every 200 of us. It's in our nations and in our cities, in our communities, and in our homes. Introducing the global crime of contradictions, human trafficking. It's low in risk, but high in profit. It's hidden, but in plain sight. It's illegal, but often overlooked. Now more than ever, millions of people are being exploited for their bodies and labor. But how is this happening? Well, what does every victim of human trafficking have in common? Vulnerability. Some are vulnerable because they're born into it, caught up in poverty, living as a minority, or dealing with the pressure to provide for their family. Others are vulnerable because they run into it, fleeing brokenness and abuse. And still, others are vulnerable because they are found in the middle of it, faced with conflict, natural disasters, or war zones. Victims of slavery are often just human beings who are searching for something better, a better job, a better relationship, a better future, a better life. Traffickers are focused on turning human expectation into exploitation through force, fraud, or coercion. After people are recruited and exploited, months or years can pass, forced to dance on the streets of Bangkok, cook food in a London household, stitch clothes in a Mumbai factory, build buildings in Barcelona, or being trafficked for sex across a dozen American cities. Tragically, few victims bravely escape or find rescue. For those that do, the experience of exploitation amplifies unresolved vulnerability, and without intervention, victims can become victims over and over again. Vulnerability, exploitation, re-victimization, vulnerability, exploitation, re-victimization. Do you see it? Human trafficking is a cycle. But all over the world, the cycle is breaking. We know how to stop the cycle of trafficking, and with your help, we will.
You know, I can still remember the first time I heard about human trafficking many years ago. The first time that someone told me that people were being bought and sold against their will. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it was happening, especially in the 21st century and on our doorsteps. Hearing this was happening across the globe wrecked me. And if I'm honest, it still does today.
It can be so hard to believe that this is happening in our world right now. Not just in one country, not just in one city, not just to one person, but in every country and in every city. But what you have to remember is that you and I are here today. And although this problem is massive, we have the radical hope that slavery can and will end. But it's going to take each of us playing our part.
So to give us some insight on effective strategies for combating trafficking, we're now going to be hearing from Phil. Phil's been on the front lines of fighting human trafficking since 2008 and has seen firsthand the victory, the restoration and freedom of the survivors in our care.
Hi, my name is Philip Hilgard, and I oversee the global operations and program development at A21. Human trafficking is perhaps the greatest injustice taking place in our world today. It's hidden in plain sight, and it's embedded in the very fabric of our society. Now, trust me, I know that it can be quite hard to get your head around the fact that people like you and I, young and old, are being sold, traded, and exploited in nearly every country around the world. But this is the reality of modern-day slavery. And the fact is that there has never been more people enslaved in human history than there are right now. I understand how this information can leave you feeling angry, overwhelmed, and even hopeless, or perhaps just a mix of all three. How can we be hopeful when knowing the facts? And what can be done when the problem seems so big? And what is your place in that? These are some of the questions that I hope to bring into light today. When I first began to understand the reality of human trafficking, my first reaction was one of anger. Anger that I didn't know. I was somewhat educated, had traveled internationally, and followed the news every day, and yet no one had ever told me that human trafficking was the fastest growing organized crime in the world. It made me even more angry to learn what victims go through every single day. Many the same age or even younger than myself at the time, innocent people exploited at the hands of other human beings. How could this be happening? The truth is, anger is a great igniter of action. Anger drove me all the way to Greece to start up the very first operational office of A21 back in 2008. And that anger was only further stirred when we invited the first survivor of sex trafficking into our care a few months later. I started to hear what she had been through. But then something happened. This young girl who had been trapped for so long and had been through unimaginable abuse was now free. We were able to provide extensive medical care, counseling, education, and life skills. And seeing her experience freedom in a safe and empowering environment brought with it this incredible hope that even though the journey towards healing can be a difficult one, it wasn't long before she started sleeping again, smiling and dreaming about her future. In time, she bravely shared her testimony in court. And as a result, her trafficker were convicted and received a long sentence. Justice took place. Seeing her succeed and find her way toward an independent life was much more powerful feeling than that of anger. It was this new motivational drive I found, an unstoppable force of hope. You see, while anger can be a great igniter for action, over time it is exhausting and it will kill your passion, but hope can sustain you through to the end. Now, over a decade later, I have seen stories of restoration just like this one 1,000 times over. And I'm still here, filled with an even greater hope than ever that we can see slavery abolished. You see, to abolish something is to completely eradicate it. It is a true end to this injustice. So why do I believe that eradication of slavery is possible? Well, because every vulnerable person reached is one less person who may experience slavery. Because every victim that's identified and assisted is one less person who is forced to endure this injustice. And because every survivor that steps into a life of restoration and independence is one less person who can be re-victimized. Now, human trafficking is a complex crime, and it looks different all over the world. But there is one thing that every victim of human trafficking has in common: vulnerability. And whereas in the past, traffickers used tactics like abductions and mass recruitment, we see more and more that human traffickers are targeting their victims, specifically taking the time to understand the unique factors that make that person vulnerable. And then they lure them in with false promises of love, opportunity, or a job. Without knowledge of these schemes, they can be really hard to see through, and innocent people fall into the hands of traffickers. This starts an exploitation phase, of which a victim may never escape on their own. We believe that everyone, individuals, organizations, governments, can play a key role in this strategy and as an effective approach in combating human trafficking. Through REACH, we equip people to understand human trafficking through education curriculums, prevention materials, and awareness programs. When people know their rights, they can make safe decisions. When people know the signs to look for, they can avoid traps and report suspicions. Life-saving information spreads from parents to children, teachers to students, individuals to communities, and by exposing the factors that make people vulnerable, we are able to stop the cycle before it goes any further, and in some cases, before it even begins. Through our rescue strategy, we work with governments and local authorities to secure the freedom of victims and the conviction of traffickers through hotlines, child advocacy centers, professional training, and legal support. When professionals are trained to spot indicators, more victims can be identified. When survivors are represented in court, traffickers can be brought to justice, preventing them from exploiting others. Life-saving phone calls to hotlines lead to recovery, operations, and arrests. Finally, through Restore, we empower survivors through holistic aftercare, safe accommodation, and relocation services. Our Restore teams are wholeheartedly committed to the restoration and independence of each and every survivor that enters our care. When survivors receive care and are surrounded by others who care, they can begin a journey of restoration. When survivors are supported and able to access services, they can step into new opportunities. Life-saving aftercare allows freedom to continue, and it has a multi-generational impact. With the right support and healing, a survivor's journey can lead them away from the risk of re-victimization and empower them to step into an independent life. All over the world, the cycle is breaking. And one life at a time, this is how we will end slavery. This is our theory of change. This is what we do every day all around the world. And we are not the only ones. There are so many amazing organizations, partners, and people that are out there doing the work with us. Perhaps you're one of them. If so, thank you for playing your part. Because for us to tackle this problem, it's going to take every single one of us doing our part. We are filled with a radical hope, believing that change is possible. As the day continues, you will learn more about the role that you can play as we work together to abolish slavery everywhere, forever. Now, I want to introduce you to Petya. Through her story, you will see each of these elements of reach, rescue, and restore at work in ending the cycle of trafficking.
Abby, listen to me. When we get there, we will finally have a good job. I promise you. Okay? Everything is going to be okay. Yes. But it was all a lie. I thought we were paying for a better life. Anything would have been better than what we came from.
Get out!
Or at least, that's what I thought. They only took the strong. Everyone else was left behind. She was my closest and dearest friend.
Petya, you're a long way from home.
Where is my friend, Avi? We came on the ship together.
About this friend of yours, Abby, you see, she owes me a lot of money.
Money? I had given all I had to get here.
Get her out.
I had nothing left to give.
Она начнет работать сегодня вечером.
Days turned to months. Months turned to years. My debts paid long ago, yet I was still there. I thought I would never escape. That's when it happened.
Petya. Petya. Tell me how you see yourself now.
How do I see myself? Worthless. I feel worthless.
Послушай меня.
Hello, this is the National Human Trafficking Hotline. How can I help you? Madam, I need you to remain calm.
It's him, it's him. It's not okay what they did to you. Even with the threat of punishment, you were so brave to escape.
We need to go now, please! Now!
I need you to call the sergeant.
We have a life incident here that requires immediate attention.
Those other girls will have a better future. Because of you.
What is your current location?
We are just off the 80th Street near the main plaza.
Did they fight her?
No, boss.
Are you gonna lose all my girls now?
Anna!
Bruce, it's okay. It's okay. What's your name, dear? Daniela. It's okay, Daniela, right? You're safe now. It's over.
Убери мусор!
You're incredibly resilient, Petya.
I didn't feel resilient.
No one should ever have to go through what you've been through.
But maybe things can be different.
Silence in the courtroom.
Hey everyone, this is Petya.
Hi. Hi, Petya.
They were so kind to me,
Just help yourself with
so
whatever you like. Okay?
helpful,
Yourself at home, whatever you need. That'll be the next one.
helped me to feel safe again.
The evidence overwhelmingly supports 10 charges of sex trafficking, 2 charges of conspiracy to traffic a minor, and 4 charges of manslaughter.
So this is the key to your new place. Take it. I'll be really close by. You can call me anytime, 24/7, all right? Whatever you need.
Thank you. The Freedom Center restored my trust in people. They welcomed me in, gave me a home, told me how to pick up the pieces and start again, to find the beauty in life, to trust again. The life once lost, I'm beginning to create again.
I want you to feel the degree of irreparable harm you have caused this young lady and 15 other women and children that we know of.
Now, it's my turn to do my part. To make sure nothing like this ever happens to anyone else.
Hey, how are you doing? This is for you.
Time passed. Anna was always there for me.
It is the judgment of this court that you are sentenced to 150 years imprisonment and ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $275,000. This matter is adjourned.
This is more than freedom. This is justice. Not a day goes by that I don't think about what happened. I think about the ones who didn't make it. About Avi. About the countless ones still waiting for freedom. I'm here because of the incredible people who cared for me, who loved me, who fought for me, who refused to give up on me, who paid the price for a better future for myself and so many.
Darling. Wait. You're fine here?
Yes.
to the ones who made this all possible. If that was you, thank you.
Wow, what a powerful story. Because one person was aware of the issue, she was then able to assist a victim. And as a result of that one call to the hotline, even more victims were identified, assisted, and restored.
Petya's story is not only a testament to what is possible for one survivor, but what can be possible for millions more. I can't help but think of the men, women, and children who will be impacted as a result of the awareness and activation that is taking place here today.
And it's not too late for you to invite your friends to join us. This broadcast will be live all weekend, so be sure to spread the word and invite your friends, your family to take action with you today.
Yeah, that's right. And don't forget to tag us at A21 and use the hashtag Global Freedom Summit so we can follow you along the way.
While human trafficking is often hidden, it's happening all around us, in industries, businesses, and in places we interact with on a daily basis. By knowing what human trafficking looks like and what to do if we suspect it, each of us can be equipped to make a difference in the places we call home and across the world.
So next up, we're going to hear from Christian and Caitlin to learn more about some of the potential indicators of human trafficking, common scenarios victims might find themselves in, and what you can do if you suspect trafficking might be taking place.
So Christian, today we're going to be looking at some of the key indicators of human trafficking. People may already know a vast amount about the issue of human trafficking, but what we're going to be exploring today are some of the red flags that people can be looking out for in their day-to-day lives. Because you do not need to be a frontline professional to be able to recognize a potential trafficking situation and to report your concerns.
Yeah, and to illustrate this, we're going to show the indicators of trafficking through our global campaign, Can You See Me? And Can You See Me is contextualized all over the world in different types of trafficking scenarios. So it arms people not only to be aware, but to report, which is vital.
Can anyone tell me what the different chromosome is for a male versus a female? Yes.
XX is female and XY is male.
Correct?
This is thought it was up here.
No, it's down.
We're trying to study.
What is this?
Nothing.
What is this? What are you doing?
It's nothing.
Who is that?
Nobody.
Who is that? Who are you texting?
What's your problem? Come on, let's go.
Hey, it's gonna be fun. Come over here.
So Caitlin, first we're going to talk about what is the commonly known form of trafficking, which is sexual exploitation, or more commonly known as sex trafficking.
While each individual situation will have differing elements, there are actually some key things that we can be looking out for that might potentially suggest a sex trafficking situation. Traffickers are increasingly using younger people in order to manipulate and exploit other young people. This could be as simple as a young boy in a class who is being controlled by the trafficker actually going on to recruit one of their classmates, another girl, for example. And this is what's known as the lover boy scenario.
Yeah, and things escalate, don't they? So you have this position where the girl thinks she's met this perfect guy, and for a time he romances that girl, and it gets to the point where she becomes involved in this romancing period of time that then escalates to something where there's violence involved, or there might be drugs and alcohol involved. And basically that romancing is very short-lived, to the point where they'll go to the extremes of even branding a person with a tattoo on the neck with their names. And that name symbolizes control. And it's a continual reminder to that girl that she's owned. And then, of course, the next extremity from that is for that person to make money for what is no longer a boyfriend, but a pimp.
The thing to remember is there is actually no typical profile of a sex trafficking victim. Men, women, and children can all be affected by the crime. The key underlying factor is vulnerability. And every single person can be vulnerable, whether that's because of someone's age, whether that's because of their financial position, or simply because someone has lost their job. All these things can make someone extremely susceptible and vulnerable to trafficking.
Every day I ask myself, could my life be different?
Thank you for seeing me. So nice to have you here. Likewise. Come in, please, come in here.
What would my life be like if I hadn't believed you? I'm haunted by the decisions I made that day.
You want to go to trials? Hop in.
It will be okay. All the promises were lies. I took a chance, and my friends trusted me, all because we needed work. Now I know, when someone takes away your passport, they take away your freedom to live.
How do I get out?
Forced labour often occurs when the formal sector meets the informal hidden economy and can occur in a range of different industries, whether that's construction, agriculture, beauty, or even the entertainment industry.
And actually one of the common denominators between all of those types of trafficking is the living conditions are terrible. Whether that be, packed like sardines into a factory on mattresses, or in a car wash, or in an old caravan on common ground. I mean, this is one of the things that we see with all of the cases. It's just terrible living conditions.
That's such a great point, because this displacement of people makes them inherently vulnerable to trafficking. But actually, traffickers know this. They know that people don't know their rights, particularly in a new or unfamiliar country, or simply the fact that if someone has come into a new country where they do not speak the local language, how are they meant to communicate their situation to someone, to say, please, I actually need help, and to leave that situation?
One of the things I like to add to that is there are extremely vulnerable groups that are vulnerable to trafficking, such as migrants. And so whether that's migrants traveling in from the Mekong Delta region into Thailand, whether that's the Roma people traveling across Europe, or Latin America looking for the hopes of a better life in America. Generally speaking, they don't have ID, they're in a foreign land, nobody's looking for them, and very often they don't know their rights. So there are many examples of labour trafficking in a business environment, but what about domestic servitude?
Domestic servitude is a notoriously hard crime to detect simply because it occurs in someone's private residence, in their home. And this can include anything from someone being exploited who is working as a cook, a cleaner, a nanny, a gardener. And actually all these things together mean that because they're working in a private home, authorities can't as readily inspect a private residence as they can a business, for example. So taking a step back, I think it's just really important to look at the situation as a whole. For example, let's say you live in an apartment block. Actually, you hear a scream from a neighbouring building, or perhaps you walk past the same neighbour every day, and actually one day there's a construction worker working there who seems extremely malnourished or distressed. Actually, if you look at that situation, that potentially might spark something and say something isn't right here.
And that's the unfortunate thing. People think of labour trafficking as having a job and not getting as paid as well as the local people, but it's far more insidious than that. It again comes back to control, coming back to manipulating the individual, deceiving them to take a particular job through the lens of need, and then exploiting them to do things that they don't want to do and that they can't escape from. That defines what trafficking is.
Exactly. I mean, in this sense, if you recognise a situation that something isn't right, the most important thing you can do is to report it, whether or not you have 100% certainty that that situation is a situation of exploitation, which in my experience, you will never be 100% certain.
And it's okay to be wrong.
Exactly, and you can't do everything in that situation to try and detect exactly what's going on. But actually, you can do something about it. Whether or not that is just, gathering information and calling the police or calling your national hotline, that is enough, and that could change a life.
So the expansion of the online world has led to more children being exploited online, and there are a number of factors for that. Number one, there's greater connectivity in the world now. It's not just a localized problem, it's literally everywhere all over the world.
The online world actually makes it easier than ever before for perpetrators to track down young people, whether that's through social media platforms or through online gaming platforms. It actually means that it's very easy for a perpetrator to enter the child's bedroom, a safe space in the child's home, simply through a friend request. And this is actually a process. This grooming process can happen online through either a series of weeks, or actually we've seen this process take years. We need to be equipping ourselves with the realities of what's going on our child's devices, whether that's the social media platforms that our children are using, whether that is the games that people are playing on, and actually the intricacies of those games, the web chat functions that perhaps we do not even know about because we have ourselves never actually played the game.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, this grooming process, it can go on for long periods of time, but actually with each stage of the process, that child gets more ensnared into that relationship. Again, that child might actually feel shame at one point of what they're being asked or even made to do. And that child will then not feel able to leave the situation or even tell family or friends about what is happening to them.
It's like the Can You See Me that we have in this current example. That's based on a true story, but the true story is far more horrific than reality. Yes, it's true that they met someone online, which is, he was a 12-year-old boy. They strike up a relationship. She offers him cheats and hacks to get to the next level. He gladly accepts, feels like he's met a fantastic person. Meanwhile, a 40-year-old man is thinking of ways in which he can escalate his privileges in that child's life, which is the reality.
Exactly, and following on from that, children can actually feel like it's their own fault, that it's their fault that this is happening to them. And again, that can make them feel that they can't speak out because this is something they've inflicted on themselves. But actually what's so important for children to know is it's not their fault. They can get help, and it's so important to speak about this issue with a parent, a family, a friend.
Okay, so we know how tricky it is. We know how notorious it is to even communicate with our children sometimes. So what can we do? What can we do as parents? What can we do as teachers? You see something, what's next?
Well, I'll first just speak about some of the indicators that we can be looking out for. So whether you're a parent, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a concerned person in a child's life, there are some key indicators you can be looking out for. Simply looking out for a child's mood swings, volatile behaviour, or even just a change in behaviour can actually portray that something is going on a deeper level. It could be that a child is acting out, is extremely angry or extremely volatile, or it could be the reverse, that a child is completely withdrawn. Because actually in these situations, a child's silence can speak louder than a child's words.
So it really comes back to that, detecting when something doesn't look right, it quite possibly isn't. Okay, so let's say you find something, you see something doesn't look right, you have this innate suspicion that something's wrong. What next?
Well, I think the first thing is to act on that suspicion, is to actually say something is wrong and I can do something about it. And one thing I would really say for everyone to do first and foremost is to find out where you can report your suspicions. So if you go to our website, a21.org/call, you can actually see a whole list of places where you will be able to report your concerns. I would really encourage you, please do head to that website to see exactly where you can report your concerns.
That was great and really insightful. So by knowing the signs and where to call if we suspect trafficking, each of us has the power to bring a hidden crime into plain sight. What I love about awareness campaigns like Can You See Me is that it has the power to equip people with the information they need to identify situations of trafficking, but also prevent it from happening in the first place.
If you haven't already, be sure to check out a21.org/call to find the human trafficking hotline number for your country, and you can put it right in your phone.
Well, hey, we're not just here to gather today, but actually to act. And in just a few moments, we're going to be sharing with you some of the practical ways you can take action here today.
So get ready. We're about to hear from A21's co-founder, Christine Caine. We know you're going to be inspired, motivated, and encouraged as she shares not only about the power of the individual action, but even more what's possible when we all come together.
Hi, I'm Christine Caine, the founder of A21. You just heard from the global leaders in the fight against human trafficking from all over the world about why they believe that in the face of this massive problem, that change is, in fact, possible. Over the years, I've been asked that same question time and time again. Chris, do you really think that you guys can make a dent in this? There's millions of people enslaved all over the world. So why do you believe that this can end? And every single time I'm asked that question, my answer is exactly the same. It's because I've seen it happen. For 12 years now, since A21 began, we've seen the power of individual action. But more importantly, what's possible when we all come together. Through our operations around the world, we've seen hundreds of traffickers arrested, millions of vulnerable people reached with prevention and awareness messages, and thousands of victims identified, assisted, and restored. But all of that started with one action, one choice to get involved, one decision to do something. Years ago, when I was traveling to Greece for a speaking event, I found myself standing in the Thessaloniki airport, staring at dozens of posters of missing women and children. I wasn't looking for something else to do with my life. But in that moment, standing in this small airport in the middle of the night, waiting at the baggage claim, I began to realize that I had to do something. Now looking back, that moment irrevocably shaped my life. For months after that day, I searched for answers, I made phone calls, I asked questions, I scoured the internet. I discovered that the faces I'd seen on those posters were not just randomly missing people, but were allegedly the victims of human trafficking. As I continued to study, research, and educate myself, I learned there are tens of millions of people being deceived, coerced, and taken as victims of human trafficking. Not in some other time, not in history, but right here and right now in my lifetime. When I discovered the magnitude of the problem of human trafficking, I was so overwhelmed. I began to compile a list of all the reasons why a 40-year-old mother of two living on the other side of the world could not possibly do anything that would in any way significantly change the statistics. But no matter how insignificant my decision to act felt, I knew that I had to try, that I had to do something, because there were lives at stake. And ever since then, we've continued to do something, one step, one decision, and one action at a time. And it's resulted in what many of you have seen right here today. I want to tell you that the same is true for you. You're giving, you're engaging, and you're showing up. It really does matter. The world has always and always will be changed by people. Ordinary, everyday people like you and me, using what's in our hands to make a difference. It's not always glamorous or easy, and it often requires something of us. What will it require of us to end human trafficking? It will require of us to be people of endurance. Now, endurance is the ability or strength to continue despite fatigue, stress, or adverse conditions. It's the capacity to bear up under very difficult circumstances, the power to withstand pain or hardships. It's a hopeful fortitude that perseveres to the end. Now, the most important part, and often the hardest part of endurance, is keeping up hope, especially when you are faced with such a massive and overwhelming problem. Millions of people are enslaved in every nation, and that equals a $150 billion industry. It's easy to lose hope in the midst of such statistics. But I have hope that we can end human trafficking because I've seen the progress that we've made in such a short amount of time, and also because the numbers are actually in our favor over the long haul. Now, the world's population is 7.8 billion. Did you know that if we get 1% of the people in communities around the world to care about human trafficking, we would have twice as many advocating for the end of human trafficking as there are people enslaved by it. Now, just imagine a world with 78 million abolitionists, simply by mobilizing 1% of the world's population. And if that 1% of people in communities around the world gave $100 over the next year in order to fight human trafficking, it would actually release $7.8 billion in resources to fight this crime. Now, most would say that taking on a global criminal enterprise like human trafficking is daunting. But what if we had 78 million abolitionists standing together and $7.8 billion in resources to combat it? Can you imagine what we could accomplish together? I believe we can stop human trafficking, but it's going to take each and every one of us doing our part. In the early days of A21, I realized that my individual actions could only go so far. There was only so much I, one person, could do on my own. And as time went on, we saw more and more people join the fight, one person after another, rallying around the mission and using what's in their hands to make a difference. The more we saw people taking action, the more we saw freedom multiplying in ways we could never have accomplished by ourselves. We realized that when we show up in numbers, that is how we will end slavery. It's your actions alongside mine, alongside those in your community, that multiply into a greater impact than we could have ever imagined. Even though we're over a decade into this, we are still in the early stages. We are just getting started. People are just beginning to awaken to the problem and are looking for a solution. Momentum is building and change will happen, but only when each and every one of us decides to do our part. We are so grateful for each and every one of you, and I am so encouraged when I meet people all over the world who have looked beyond the challenges of their own lives to see and act on behalf of those who are still enslaved. So what I'm asking you today is to endure. We need you to endure in the fight until we reach a tipping point where we have sufficient number of abolitionists to turn the tide, to abolish slavery everywhere forever. We need you to endure in sharing with anyone and everyone who will listen. We need you to endure in giving your time, your passion, and resources to continue the fight. We need you to endure in advocating for change in your communities and in your countries. Now, I know this year has been very hard. I feel the weariness of it alongside you. This was a year that no one saw coming, and we've all experienced it globally, collectively. And right now, we're inviting you to continue to show up with us, because freedom is still worth fighting for, because human life still has value, and because change is still possible. Together, right now, we get to decide what this moment in history will mean. Almost 13 years ago, I made a decision to do my part, but I've never been alone in it. And today, in countries all over the world, people are gathering together to take action in their cities, towns, and local communities. And while this year looks different, we all still have a choice to stand up, show up, and fight. To do our part for the millions still enslaved. Just imagine if every single person watching this takes action today. What if every single person in your community was aware of human trafficking and knew how to report it? What if every hotel, airport, bus stop, and places where victims are hidden in plain sight was flooded with potentially life-saving hotline information? What if frontline professionals across the globe were trained on how to spot and identify victims of trafficking? What if every school system educated students on human trafficking and equipped young people to know how to safeguard themselves? Can you imagine the ripple effect of what could be possible when we all just take one step forward together? I am convinced that if we do this together, if we keep showing up, if we continue to be tenacious, if we continue to have grit, if we continue to not bow down to discouragement, but if we step up and show up with strength, with numbers, with courage, then we will see slavery eradicated in our lifetime.
Well, I don't know about you, Rocky, but I'm super inspired today.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
Today, I know change will happen. Freedom will prevail. But the rate that freedom will advance today is largely determined by the actions of me and you.
As we're nearing the end of our time together, remember this: your action matters. And it could be the difference between slavery and freedom for another person's life.
Across the globe, we're inviting you to take action, starting now. Learn more about human trafficking and educate others. Canvass your community with a hotline number and report potentially dangerous situations. An advocate for change and take a bold stand against injustice.
As we get ready to take action, your host will give you some important information on your next steps. And if you're tuning in online, be sure to go to a21.org/summit to download your action kit. It'll have everything you need to start making a difference right where you are. And don't forget, if you use your social media, tag A21 and use the hashtag Global Freedom Summit so we can follow you along and see who's joining us for the fight for freedom.
Well, on behalf of our partners, our supporters, and the team across the globe, we just want to say a big thank you for tuning in today and showing up to fight for justice, freedom, and the restoration for the millions enslaved in our cities and across the world. Together, we will abolish slavery everywhere, forever.
Today, in cities and countries all over the world, thousands are turning up, standing up, and fighting. Advocating, learning, and canvassing together. Because one phone call to a hotline can lead to multiple lives rescued.
One social media post can inspire hundreds of your friends.
One poster in a bus station can inform thousands of people.
Imagine if every single person watching this takes action today.
How many traffickers can be convicted and held accountable for their crimes? How many vulnerable children can be protected from exploitation?
How many millions of victims could be identified, assisted, and restored? Together, we will continue to fight until the day comes when every man, woman, and child is free. Where slavery is a thing of the past and injustice is a distant memory. Will you be a part of the solution? Well, it's up to you.